Of course, yeah, I'd love to talk about that. Immediately when I had the opportunity to do this movie, a big thing for me was to contemporize a scary movie and to kind of bring it into 2026 and give it a cinematic quality, to give it scope, to make it feel like it deserved to be, on the big screen. And a lot of that too for me is evoking the original films that we're sending up. And I think for the hardcore horror fans, they really did see that. They kind of saw it online. You saw these posts where they were, putting the side by sides of, the movies that we were sending up and the movie that I was creating. And so for me, I wanted to really evoke those originals through the visuals, and I wanted you to feel like you were in that movie for a minute. And I can remember going back when I first started this. I think it's just a great way to kind of subliminally create connective tissue to the audience because they're familiar with, oh, I remember this part in Scream, or I remember this part in Terrifier, and I know it's coming. And then that's when you hit them with the joke, and they had no idea that that was going to happen. And then you get them on their, keep them on their toes, and they don't know what's going to happen. And that's when you really can kind of play with them and have fun with the scene itself. And so it was a great way to explore like all these little sandboxes of jumping into Jordan Peele and playing with the Get Out and really kind of nailing, visually what he was doing in that movie and what we're doing in that movie. And like you said, the substance. I mean, there are moments in that movie that are almost shot for shot very similar to the original film, which I wanted, the hardcore horror audiences to hopefully appreciate, and at the same time, audiences that weren't familiar to kind of feel the same impact that those movies gave you. Even to go so far as like our John Wick send up, Terry Stacy, my DP on this movie, who was wonderful. He was fully on board with, becoming how did I describe it? You got to become a chameleon to do this movie. You got to be able to like really organically shift from one to another. And we brought in the John Wick element and went to anamorphic lenses and really kind of leaned into the slickness and the lighting of that film. And the same with Longlegs, playing with the ultra wide. Also Sinners, they shot that on a 70 millimeter format. So unfortunately, I couldn't get the IMAX camera for this movie, maybe Scary Movie 7. But yeah, we went there. We really wanted to evoke those original, cinematic feelings and then, flip it on the audience and get them with the jokes when they least expected it.